Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the garage. And I bet you've been thinking, where the hell have I been with all these live streams? Well, you should see the state of the place. Trying to squeeze in here and come talk to you guys. It's been a bit of a challenge, but we're here tonight. And hopefully from now on, I'll be able to do more of them. Just a quick note before we move on. I was just mentioning my moderator who sits in the background, helping me with the comments and everything usually. Blood knows. Hello, Andy. I'm not able to be in the studio today to help. All the best. Break a leg. So there he is. Thank you, Blood. I appreciate that. And I did wonder whether you would show up or not. Can I ask everybody, before we go on and I bring tonight's guest on, that you all give this a thumbs up, because things like this are very important. We need to get the word spread, particularly what we're talking about. And if you're on social media, on X, follow me on there. If you're on there, I'm about. Get it shared, Facebook, wherever you happen to be, just fly this everywhere. Well, as you know, in the beginning of the week, I think it was actually, I decided to make the jump, stick 10 quid out of my wallet into the coffers of Advance UK and give them my public backing. As a result, I was contacted by Edward Oakenfall. If I pronounced his last name right, I hope so. We'll find out in a minute. Who turns out he's been a subscriber of this channel for quite some time as well, which was great. And we arranged to come on for a chat and see what all of this was about. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Edward Oakenfall. And here he is. Hello, Edward. How are you doing?
Really good, and it's just great to be on your show. And like I say, I've followed you for all these years, and to actually be part of it is pretty cool, really.
Wonderful. And I appreciate the support, first and foremost, and it's great to have you on. It's always, I do these live streams, and it used to just be me on my own talking for an hour. It's far more fun when you've got someone to chew the fat with, so to speak. So we'll continue and see where it takes us. So you're with Advance UK, and I see from your X profile, in fact, I'm a bit remiss. I'll bring that up on the screen while we're talking so people can see where they can find you on social media. Just bear with me a second. I should have done this before we started. There you go. Handy when you follow each other. I'll just bring this up very quickly. Share screen. That one. There we go. Yeah, you see you're with Advance and also with the East Midlands director for the Great British Pack as well. That's what I was looking for, that line. Now, what I want to start with, like I like to do with all the people that come on the channel, Edward, is who the hell are you? A little bit about your background and why in God's name would you want to get into something like politics? So over to you.
Yeah, why the hell I am in politics? It's because I despair for how our country's been run for decades. Many. I've always loved current affairs and politics, and I've just seen decline, heap upon decline for many decades. So that's why I had to stick my head above the parapet and give it a go and try and get elected to change things. A little bit about me. I'm 58. I've got two grown-up sons now who are in the 20s, and the other one's 30. I've lived in Derbyshire, middle of the country, for pretty much all my life, except for when we were kids, when 1970s, when we were in an economic turmoil just like we are now, with an awful Labour government that was taxing the hell out of the economy. My parents got so fed up with it, they sold the business, and we emigrated to Ireland for about 5 or 6 years. Came back when Margaret Thatcher got back into power, and I've been in pretty much Derbyshire all my life. Worked in and around the area. Started off as an estate agent. I'm sure there we go. Some of your audience have already tuned out now. Now I've said that. But got into property investment, property development, built up a large buy-to-let property portfolio. Had 75 houses at one stage. George Osborne and the useless Conservative government then tried to put me out of business with retrospective tax attacks on my business, and it's not just me personally, but every other buy-to-let business out there. The last 10 years, I've pretty much been selling all my portfolio off. Still, and it gives me the free time now to be able to indulge in my passion, which is our country and trying to save our country. And I wouldn't even be here. I would just be enjoying myself. And I live on a farm that I'm developing. I would love to be doing that. But I feel it's a calling that I have to be here, and I have to try and do something to stop these useless Conservatives and this useless Labour Party that have formed the Uni Party, and the ever great reform that seem to be betraying the people that set it up and becoming the Uni Party themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you talk about property. I think you've got what? How old did you say you were? 50?
I'm 58. Yeah.
Yeah, you got 10 years on me roughly, and I remember the last Labour government. And the house I live in now is rented. Both myself and my wife, I owned property before, and I had a flat, and £55,000 I paid for it. It was like a 1-bedroom shoebox, and I remember the crash. When was it? 2010, something like that, and I remember coming back to work, my boss saying, "Sorry, Andy, you've lost your job," and everything else. The flat got repossessed, and the price of property now, for one thing, that £55,000 flat I've seen multiple times for £100,000 or more. All these years later, you say affordable housing, and then you look at the prices. How can anybody afford it? It's just crazy, isn't it?
Must have been a tough time for you. And I was the same. The 2008 crash, more money was going out on all the loans, the millions of pounds of loans that I had, than there was coming in rents. I was going through a divorce at the time, so I almost went bankrupt, but managed to survive. And then the Bank of England kept cutting the interest rates, and it saved me. And I took some big risks, and they paid off.
Okay, I mean, the main thing is we're here now, we're talking, and we want to do something about it. I mean, I'm from a conservative family myself. My parents, and I was brought up in a household where I thought, right, when I'm 18, I'm going to vote Conservative. That's the way of things, and then you go and live your life and work it all out for yourself. And it got me to the point I ended up very anti-establishment in my views. I still am to a degree, to be honest with you, and looking for that person or that organisation that's going to save everything for me. And many years ago, well, it feels like many years ago, it isn't really that much, Nigel Farage came to what was the South Thanet constituency at the time, which was held by the Conservatives for at least, I think, two general elections after that. And he tried to get this seat. And, the Conservatives threw everything and the kitchen sink at it. And I remember there was a pub down the road from me called the Old Charles. And that was Nigel's version of the hustings. He'd go around all the pubs in the area, and you'd see him with his entourage. And the guy could hold a crowd, and he knew the right things to say. And there was just this aura about him. One of you standing there with a pint of fag in his hand, having a chat.
No doubt about it. He is a brilliant orator, and can certainly hold an audience.
Absolutely.
The thing, if I can just add in there, Andy, as well, the thing that impressed me about Farage 20 years ago, he answered questions when he was interviewed on television. Labour or Conservative, they're almost fed a line, and they're almost told to get this line and this soundbite into the conversation and not even answer the questions that the interviewer was asking him. The thing that impressed me with Farage, he just came out and answered the question. Simple as that.
Absolutely. I mean, we'll get onto it later, but you notice things like that change. Well, what happened in the local area, Farage didn't get the seat. I think they literally threw everything at it to make sure he didn't. And UKIP at the time won the local council, the local Thanet District Council. I remember being told, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do the other. And like any bunch of broken promises you get from any politician ever, that's exactly what happened, and the whole lot collapsed. There was infighting, rebellions, and everything else. And of course, there was the Brexit Party. That's where I first remember encountering Ben Habib. Again, we'll talk again very shortly about him. He gave a great speech at a hotel just down the road from me, and I remember being in the audience, listening, very articulate and everything else. And then we get Reform. You know, Nigel comes back. Reform.
What were your first impressions of Ben speaking then, Andy?
I was impressed. You know, he was very confident, very articulate. He knew his subject matter. He tried to relate to everybody. You know, you used the same language as everybody else. To, you know, very, very pleasant man. You know,
so patriotic about our history, our culture.
Absolutely
incredible. Yeah, and I'm so impressed with him as a human being, as a fantastic person. Yeah,
absolutely. So that brings us to Reform. Obviously, the Great White Hope, we shall call it, as the saying goes. And, you know, people are still very divided about this with their opinions. Are they going to save us? Are they not? You know, that's for you to believe. But you've got first-hand experience with this. You know, you were going to stand for them. How did that occur, and what happened? You know, you obviously ended up leaving. So tell us a little bit.
Oh yeah, the long and the short of it, I was kicked out by Farage actually. But a year before the general election is when I pretty much joined Reform. So 2 years, or just over 2 years from now, when I first joined. And at that time, it was all about free speech. It was everybody was welcome to join. Ideas were welcomed, and it was a completely different entity from what it became. I met all the people, Richard Tice, even Lee Anderson after he defected. Gawain Towler, nothing but praise for Gawain, the press secretary. Met some absolutely brilliant people, and of course the best of all, Ben Habib. And we were never given any training or anything like that. We were just thrown in at the deep end. Go away. Here's your constituency. Promote yourself. Here's a blank piece of paper. Build it up from there. Just go away and don't cause any trouble, and that's it really. So we went on all of us went on social media and Facebook and Twitter, as it was at the time, X now, of course, promoting ourselves and building ourselves up. And I threw my heart and soul into it and spent loads of my own money. I did get some personal donations that were supposedly ring-fenced through Reform that I've never had back. And I donated them to the new branch that's been set up. Never heard anything about that. So that's another avenue to go down. But yeah. And then 5 days before I was a candidate for Reform in Derbyshire Dales for the general election. Went to all the hustings. I was up against the cabinet minister, the Conservative cabinet minister. It's a very safe Conservative seat, one of the safest Conservative seats in the country. Did all these hustings, and I got better and better at it. The last hustings we did in a church in front of about 250 people. People were coming up to me at the end saying, "Edward, you were the best one there, and isn't that fantastic against the cabinet minister in a debate?" And yeah, I feel very, very proud of being able to hold my own against a real heavyweight of the Conservative Party like that. But just before the general election, on the Friday before the Thursday election, 6 days before the election, Nigel Farage was on Question Time live on BBC. And he was under so much pressure. I think there was an incredibly handpicked, biased audience. And he was under so much pressure. Every question, he was on the defensive, and the crowd were up against him. Then Fiona Bruce mentioned my name and some tweets that I'd made, and taken out of context, completely out of context. I was quoting from a book called The Bell Curve. And, you know, facts are not racist. I talked about wanting the brightest and best to come to our country. I strayed into IQs, and you've only got to Google it. It's on Google where the highest IQ countries in the world and the lowest IQ IQ countries in the world. And I said a sentence out, and I got picked up for a sentence out of context saying low IQ people. I didn't want any low IQ Africans, sub-Saharan Africans coming to this country, diluting the IQ. And then it's easily to make out that you're a racist. Farage just dropped me there and then on that program. The next day I got a call from the regional director and thrown out of the party 5 days before the general election. My name was still on the ballot paper and I got 7,728 votes, which I'm truly humbled by. It was absolutely fantastic to think that when you see like a football stadium with like 7,000 or 8,000 people in, you think, blimey, those people there, that's the kind of numbers that voted for me. And I stopped the Conservative retaining her seat. Labour actually won the seat by 350 votes, but it was bloody worth it.
I think you were all back-footed to a degree as well, weren't you? Where that general election was suddenly called like it was 4th of July, bang. I mean, I don't know whether you've ever come across him, but Noel Wilcox is another person. He's actually become a friend of mine. I've got a lot of time for Noel. And hopefully, I can't say too much about it, but I'll hopefully be seeing him to do with something at the beginning of next month, and audience all will become clear on that in due course.
Is he still with Reform, Andy?
As far as I know, yes. And
have you heard about the new branch rules that have been issued? They're so draconian, and I can't see. I mean, they've gone down like a lead.
It's too restrictive. I mean, I went up to Noel's constituency and spent a day with him filming and got in and around all the people. It was great. You know, people were really enthusiastic. But like you said, you know, the new branch rules of NDAs, you can't talk. So many restrictions. How the hell can you possibly operate like that? You just can't.
And I'm not alone in being chucked out the party. There's literally hundreds of me up and down the country.
Oh yeah,
and the best thing is they've replaced people like myself and the other hundreds of people with nodding donkeys, yes men and women who just jump to attention and do as they're told. The lack of talent. You scratch the surface and go behind the surface. There's a lot of these people have never achieved anything, never done anything in their lives. A lot of them have defected from the Conservative Party, or there's even a socialist worker, a borough councillor, I think, that she's been in about half a dozen parties. And like I say, the socialist worker party, you wonder, so the whole original raison d'etre for reform is being watered down everywhere we look.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what attracted me in the first place, you know, a party of normal people who had some idea of how the world worked, and the alarm bells started ringing in my head with the defections. It really did. All the Tories come out. I thought, you're just a lifeboat for a sinking ship. That's what you're turning into. And I thought,
And it's so sad, Andy, where we live and breathe politics, and we do look into these stories, but most people don't. They're too busy trying to keep the roof over their heads, and they're out working and families to look after, so they don't follow it all. All they see is these sound bites that Farage is on the news, GB News, of course, that people have gone to, and they're almost like a rabbit trapped in a car headlights. They're mesmerized by this messianic quality that Farage has, and they don't bother to look behind the scenes. So, you know, when you put out your video about how you'd thrown your cards in with Advance, the amount of people on social media that pile in and start abusing you for doing that.
Oh yeah. I've got a thick skin. You have to be doing.
Yeah. But you know, I was with Reform in the early days when we were polling less than 5%, all the way up to the general election when we were polling 15%. I'm noticing on X now where there's a lot of activists and people are really well informed, and they're getting the latest news and the latest developments. There's something big going on X now. Loads of people are falling behind Advance and supporting me. It's just like those early days in Reform, and like pushing a snowball along the floor. You build it and it becomes a massive entity. And I'm sensing something similar is happening out in the country. Because people are wakening up to what is really, really behind Reform.
Very quickly as well. Rebellious Jay, thank you for the £1 super chat. I appreciate that. Yeah, Howard Cox said it, didn't he? This is what reform should have been. And I
Advance
think
UK are the party that reform should have been. That is it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So obviously out with reform, and you're now of Advance. How did that transition happen? How did you end up with Advance when you found yourself in the position you were in?
Yeah, for a while I thought I should just go away, and this politics business is not for me. But I've kept in contact with loads of. I'm not just slagging off reform. There are still some great people within reform, and some great friends that I've built up. But there's a whole network of us outside reform that I've built up and got to know, and I'm thinking, no, Farage is not going to beat me. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to show you. And I've always been good friends with Ben and got to know him through from the reform days. And I was shocked at how he was treated. Rupert Lowe, Howard Cox, a lot of these people.
Yeah, more alarm bells.
Yeah, Ant Middleton. I mean, Ant put out a statement the other day, but I'd like to know what's really gone on behind the scenes there.
As picture of you and Ben here, you said to me you look a little bit alike, and I saw a couple of people on social media say that as well.
Did you see one of the comments? They said that no wonder they kicked Edward out of reform. He looks too much like Ben Habib.
Wonderful. No, I missed that one.
Yeah.
Excellent. But yeah, it's brilliant. So how did you end up with Advance, and what is your position? What are you doing? You know, little bit about that.
Well, I fear for the worst for our country. We've had 14 years of an atrocious Conservative government. People voted for Labour thinking it can't get any worse. This Labour lot can't be any worse. We've now seen in the last 12 months it's got a lot worse. So people are thinking, gee, who on earth do I vote for? So almost by default, reform have got so much support now. But it's fickle. The reform just haven't got the talent. If they were able to win a general election, they wouldn't be able to take on the civil service. They wouldn't be able to take on the judiciary, the mainstream media. They would get slaughtered because they haven't got the talent. As I say, there's all these nodding donkeys that have got no talent, nothing about them. They'd never be able to take on a voracious civil servant department or whatever. They'd never be able to achieve any because they've never done anything in their lives anyway. So Ben Habib has set this party up, Advance UK, which what has drawn me to it is just the sheer patriotism of it. Ben believes in the whole of the United Kingdom. Northern Ireland he's got a border down the sea. It's connected to the European Union. It's in like a quasi-legal status. And this is the Conservatives that gave that away. Advance UK believe in the whole of the UK staying together, not disintegrating. And there's the Chagos Islands as well, a British overseas territory, which I did an interview with a former Chagosian, and it's just heartbreaking to think that people have fought and died for our country, and we're giving away territory and land and Northern Ireland. So that's a big thing for me. But also the freedom of speech. Every day we're seeing freedom of speech being eroded around us, all these hate crime legislation and the voracious police force that are lapping it up and arresting people for tweets and then the judiciary putting them in prison. Again, Advance UK are all about freedom of speech. And we believe in a proper democracy. Our democracy has been given away. Our parliament has given away so much power to all these quangos. There's all these supranational institutions that with so-called experts that look where COVID got us with the so-called experts. So many of these massive quangos have got, then they're unelected. They've got massive taxpayer funding, and then they're not answerable to anyone. They just do their own thing. All these international treaties that we've signed ourselves up and tied ourselves up in knots. The European Court of Human Rights is an example of that. I think we should ditch all those and become a sovereign nation again. And we're here for the British people, not for the rest of the world. and equality under the law. We've seen today where Ricky Jones has gone to trial and managed to get acquitted. We talked about a little bit about this earlier. It's apples and pears with Lucy Connolly, who actually pleaded guilty. But there's all sorts of other examples of this two-tier justice system. And, I think justice should be blind. Just because you're from some minority or you've had a tough upbringing, you've committed the crime, you should get the same sentence as anybody else. And all these factors are the mission statement for Advance UK. And I firmly believe in those.
I mean, you talk about the Ricky Jones thing and freedom of speech. There's one organisation I've joined and I want to give them a shout out, and that's the Free Speech Union. When you're in a position like myself, even you, Edward, and others, you're acutely aware all the time of what you say, because just a tiny, tiny little thing could be taken out of context and you could get a knock on the door. I never script anything. I'm always off the cuff. Say it as I see it, say it how I feel. But there's a safety valve on my mouth where I just take a pause and think, should I say that? And it served me well up until this point. But other people can have a rant and a rave and say very inflammatory things. But at the end of the day, isn't that their right? I mean, is it the United Nations section something or other? I think it's section 10.
Section 10, yeah.
Yeah, you have a right to freedom of expression, and that's getting hammered right across the country. Now, Ricky Jones, just in case.
Just on that as well. When I first started in pot, I was really naive and trusting, and you believe that what people are telling you is the truth. But then you hear about a Conservative Party with a dirty tricks department. And journalists going through every bit of social media. There's like AI bots that they can search every bit of social, looking for any little words that they can pick up to use as a story against you. It has made me become quite cynical, but you become stronger because of it. And like you say, you become really careful what you say and what you write down on X.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing with Ricky Jones. And I, just as a disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer. I have a little bit of knowledge about various areas where I've had to. But what you have to look at with Ricky Jones in the result today, while it's outrageous, and I share everybody's outrage, what he's basically had work in his favour is the English legal system, your right to a trial by jury, Magna Carta, the English Bill of Rights. He's taken it all that way and been found not guilty in front of a jury of his peers. Lucy Connolly, on the other hand, has been convinced by some dodgy legal advice, we'll call it. I'll tell you what, love, plead guilty. They won't go so hard on you. All right, 31 months in prison. So all we've seen today is I'll say English legal system, because that's where it comes from, work in his favour. But then Lucy Connolly should have said, well, hang on a minute, I want a jury trial. And maybe she could have got off as well. Maybe she wouldn't have done. We could argue that all day long. But there is due process. And people are, not getting it, not getting what they're entitled to. It's a disgrace. That's change.
I'm a big supporter of juries. They have to stay as well, even though this Labour government, there's been noises that they'd like to take it away. I think it's our right. It's our British legal system that has evolved all these hundreds of years. So it's got to stay.
The thing with juries as well, they go further than just sitting in a trial and deciding whether somebody's guilty or not guilty. They have the power to annul laws as well that they feel aren't right. They can get rid of them, and I think this is one of the reasons that it came out in the press not so long ago that they were talking about doing away with juries, because constitutionally there is a lot more to them than just what you see on the surface, with trials. Just at this stage,
just on that, I had lunch with he's retired now. He's an ex-immigration judge.
Right.
It's quite interesting. With AI advancing so much, just jokingly, he said to me that maybe we could replace all the judges with an AI system.
Oh God!
Imagine that. But
Yeah.
but they would know all the test cases and they'd have the better knowledge than any sort of human judge. But then you take away the human element of it, wouldn't you? It's one to think about. But yeah, I don't know if he was being true. He was half joking, but an interesting take on it.
Well, what I do sometimes, I'll write a letter, and it's a skill I have, and I'll actually put it in front of, say, ChatGPT or Grok or whatever, and I'll say, have a look at this. And it will give me a breakdown of strengths and weaknesses and everything. And I'll either agree with what it said or I won't go with my version. You know, it's all powerful stuff.
Well, on that, I've got again another pressure group that got in touch with me, and they had a complicated case that they're looking to take before the courts. They did exactly that, put it to that Grok system. A specialist legal part of Grok that came back with an absolute. You'd have paid £50,000 for a barrister to give you advice on all this, and it was superb. The strengths and weaknesses of the case.
Yeah, and Grok could do it in minutes.
Yeah,
you know, for nothing. It's madness, absolute madness. At this stage, folks, I just want to thank you for joining us this evening, having a chat with Edward Oakenfall of Advance UK. If you haven't done so already, if I can ask you just to hit the like button, give it the thumbs up on this, because it helps the YouTube algorithm somehow, push us around everywhere. We've got a couple of hundred watching at the moment. I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you.
And subscribe to Andy's channel. He's on 149,000 at the moment. I want him this weekend. It's got to get up to 150, a big landmark like that.
Yeah,
great guy like Andy deserves it.
Thank you very much. What I want to do at this stage, I've just come through a load of the comments. What I want to do is just, these aren't the questions to you, Edward. These are just a couple of the comments that people have come out with. If Farage says it's impossible to mass deport 1.7 million estimated illegals currently in the UK and he will not do it, what would he do with the illegals? Amnesty, citizenship? Well, look at America. Trump did it. It's not impossible. You know, I mean, we'll come into that in a bit more detail later, because there is a specific question aimed at Edward for that, which I saw.
And he did it. And as if by magic, there's nobody crossing that Mexican border anymore. I mean, it ain't rocket science.
No, that's right. That's right. And
a dedicated department of professionals that we could do this. We could do this.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it takes some very tough choices and very tough action, but you won't get the right results unless you don't. Andy, has Advance reached 30,000 members yet? Do you know that?
I do know. I know the figures, but I'm sworn to secrecy. I can't reveal that. But it's we've only been going 7 weeks. I was with Reform for 12 months, and just before the general election, we got to 30,000 members, and that had taken years to get to that. So within 7 weeks, we are smashing it. We're getting so close to that. We haven't actually hit the 30,000 yet. So anybody out there, please talk to your friends, family, anybody you know. I had some building work on my house this week, and I encourage my builders to join. So just local conversations like that. It's the best advertising. And once we get to that 30,000, we're going to go to the Electoral Commission and register as a proper political party.
All I'll say, and I'm only making an assumption based on not very much information, but when I joined, I received a membership number. And if the membership number is going in consecutive order, up, I make the assumption that, yes, we are quite close to that mark. But again, it's just arrogant assumption.
It is, Andy, and it's great reasoning. And there's all that speculation on X at the moment about this. But when Ben took over the party, it was Integrity Party. And I think there was a residue of people for integrity that started the ticker off. That are not actually part of Advance UK. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I found out GB News and Talk TV have banned Ben and Tommy from going on the shows, and heard it's the bosses. Why is that? Probably the same reason they banned Farage years ago. They don't want to give him any exposure. That's what I think. I don't know about you, Edward.
I mean, you're part of the new media, Andy, but the mainstream media have had it so good for so long. They've ruled how they want to rule. They can put stories out how they want to put it out. All these citizen journalists revealing the truth about this invasion, and active patriots who have got a lot of time for, and seeing him down in Dover, showing the true extent of these boats that are arriving. Yourself that are talking common sense and getting messages out. We thought GB News was going to be the great hope, but it isn't. And you know, Ben was a regular on GB News in all those chat shows, debating shows. You don't see him anymore. Farage is obviously used his influence to not get him on there. He's terrified and jealous stiff of Ben getting any traction and gaining any support.
Well, this is where this kind of thing comes in, isn't it? We're talking now, and Ben's going around all of the other podcasters. I actually had a message from Ben on my phone the other day. I won't play it because obviously that's between me and him, but I was quite touched with that. And you know, he's really trying to hit the ground and go around everybody. It's brilliant. Another one from Mick. I
think he should be on your show as well. I think it'd be a great show, Andy. And
yeah, well, hopefully he'll pencil me in at some point, and we'll get him on here. He's actually done an interview of a friend of mine, Nick Buckley, who I'm in regular contact with. I think that interview was released today. If not, it's going to be very soon. Again, another one observing Ben Habib blocked from GB News and Talk Radio. It's just state censorship from what we call the old media, really, because that's what it is.
And also, have you seen now? This was Reform with the Outcasts 2 years ago, and they weren't even mentioned in any mainstream. But now Reform are polling really high, and they're flavour of the month in lots of newspapers and all sorts of shows. So yeah, it just shows how fickle the mainstream is.
Absolutely. Rebellious Jay, thank you for the £2 super chat. Very much appreciated. That's another one there from you. I did miss that earlier. I did see it come in. I'll save those comments for just a short time. Now let's turn our... one more. Let's just give this a shout out. A Fenner, £5 super chat. Thank you very much. The way things are going, some have got hope and some give up, but I remember this. However dark and scary the world might be right now, there will be light. That's
very profound. Really loving it. Really profound comment.
Ever so true. I mean, I remember in like my darkest hour, I always looked for that little pinprick of light right at the end of the tunnel and never lost sight of it. You know, and I think that philosophy rings true. With just
I played tennis, senior tennis, to a really high level. I captained England against Ireland, Scotland, and Wales in a Four Nations, and I got to 47 in the world when I was over 45. And tennis, you just break it down point by point, and then you achieve great things like winning a tennis match. And it's the same with this. Little by little, we can all. At the moment, it seems very, very dark, and you think, where on earth, what's the point of Advance UK? But little by little, we'll get in those polls, we'll build and get bigger. And they say a week is a long time in politics, but from now till the general election is 4 years. 4 years is a lifetime, Andy, and we can do this.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's getting as many people as possible out, you know, to know about it, isn't it? And what's going on. I want to talk very briefly about Wales, because I knew there was a comment you made to me, I think it was a day or two ago, that, you know, there was a lot of talk about Wales in I don't know what the term is, but that podcast thing that was on X the other day. What's happening in Wales? Because there was quite a passionate Welshman on there, wasn't there?
And he was passionate. He was great, wasn't he? Richard Taylor, his name. He's the spokesman for Wales.
Right.
They've not appointed anybody yet for England, although Howard Cox did a great job, didn't he?
Absolutely. Yeah, I see very much. I mean, we talk about United Kingdom, and we talk about Great Britain, that island that encompasses all of us, the Welsh, the Scots, the English. And, there's very much still that pride in our own nation, the Scots, the Welsh, the English.
And I think it's being rejuvenated. I think the silent majority are really wakening up now. They are seeing the slap in the face that's been they're working their socks off, paying their taxes to give to all these illegals that have just rocked up on the coast and been ferried across by the lifeguards, border force. People are thinking this is not right, and the British sense of fair play is really coming through now. People are wakening up to this. They're seeing their towns and cities become just transformed, and they don't like the way it's being transformed.
No, absolutely. I mean, let's say reform. If there was an election tomorrow, Reform are probably going to win it. Let's face it. But let's take the ideal scenario where we're 3 or 4 years down the line, Advance builds up to, what we're hoping it will be, and they win. What would, the first few months of an Advance government look like? What would you say would be the priorities? Where would we go with that?
Well, you mentioned right at the start, East Midlands director for the Great British Pack. With the Great British Pack, we can complain about our lot at the moment, and we can complain about this awful Labour government, but the Great British Pack is doing something about it. We're organising petitions, we're lobbying county councillors, we're lobbying MPs about all sorts of aspects of terrible legislation that's being passed. We're trying to delay legislation. The Chagos Islands, giving away the Chagos Islands is just despicable and traitorous. I wish we had we need to bring back a law for being a traitor and charging a lot of these politicians for it, but that's another story. But the Great British Pack is doing some exceptional work on that. Along with all this, we've got a lot of KCs working on what we're calling the Great Repeal Act. There's been some terrible legislation over many decades. We've given away so much of our country to the supranational institutions, the European Court and the European Court of Human Rights, WHO, United Nations, all sorts of things. And the Great British Pack are working on a massive repeal act of all sorts of legislation, hate crime legislation, particularly the 2010 so-called Equalities Act, which is just allowing companies and businesses and the media to favour minorities, which we should all be treated equal. So there's a whole lot of work that the Great British Pack are doing with some KCs. Douglas Carswell in America has done some excellent work on this. So that on day one, you go to the King and say, look, we want to repeal all these acts, and you go ahead and repeal them. Otherwise, you're in a straitjacket for the next 4-5 years trying to achieve anything. So you need to get rid of all this terrible legislation straight away on day one.
Repeal is an interesting choice of word, I feel, because, we need to get rid of this stuff. We need to, chuck it out.
The hate crime legislation, for instance, millions of hours of police time are spent trawling through Facebook and Twitter and looking for any little hate, and they call it non-crime hate incidents. They charge people, so they arrest them and put them in the cells and take statements, and then they charge them with a non-crime hate incident. It's truly Orwellian. Imagine the millions of pounds, the billions of pounds that are probably wasted of police time when they're constantly complaining they haven't got enough resources. This would free up millions of hours for the police to actually do the job and police crime rather than people's thoughts.
Well, that's a good example. As I was just saying, about repeal. Wouldn't void be a better choice? Get rid of it, permanent, never come back, no chance.
Yeah.
There has a little bit more finality to it. I mean, another thing, you talk about Brexit, you talk about our entry into the European Union. We were conned in the 70s. Let's face it, when Ted Heath signed those papers, we were conned. It wasn't a free trade area. That was the beginning of an entanglement with a political union that's dominated our politics for the last 50 years.
And Maastricht as well was another sellout.
Oh, yeah. Again, why repeal? Void, gone, kaput. This
We're
is
a
our
sovereign
country.
nation. We've got a great history of this type of thing. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean,
the Great Void Act. I think the Great Repeal Act, just semantics sounds a little bit better.
Well, I suppose, yeah, absolutely. Talk about justice and police and all this sort of thing. What's your impression of, what we're seeing on the streets of London, for example, with the Palestine marches and Israel and everything else? What do you make of all that?
I think it all goes back to what on earth is being taught in our schools and universities. History, we've just not learned a thing from history. And then there's the nonsense of Black History Month, which is just fairy stories and rubbish put into kids' heads. I think there's a lot of indoctrination. Palestine has got a fascinating, it's never been a country. It's always been part of, first of all, the sort of the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, the Ottoman Turk Empire. It's never been a country. Half the people at these protests wouldn't even be able to point to Palestine on a map. They wouldn't, let alone have a clue about its history. That's how I despair for what has happened. You see these podcasters go up to the protesters, ask them what they're protesting about, and a lot of them haven't got a clue. They're just professional protesters, some of these people. But in answer to law and order, that I think there's some great coppers out there, but they've just been let down by their superiors. A lot who probably have never been served on the front line, and so yeah, just the whole the school for policing as well, where they go to, and the police are indoctrinated and brainwashed. So there's a lot of changes I think need to happen.
Yeah. I mean, did you see that tweet that I put out earlier with the constable's oath?
Yeah.
And I put something's gone very wrong here. I spoke to somebody I know the other day, and whether you're an inspector or a superintendent or anything, the very basic truth of it, you are a constable. Under English law, you are a constable, and that is your job. And it's like, well, stormtroopers is what we're getting at the moment. I mean, we're getting. You talk about brainwashing.
What is scary though? I'm seeing law and order just breaking down. When you see these shoplifting rampages, and then all the people, some of the knife crime. You're thinking, what on earth is happening to our? We used to have a high trust society. Now people are terrified. You go on. I travel to London. I go across the tube, and you're all the time looking over your shoulder. And and that's in the main areas of London. So if you get back to some of those side streets and become very dangerous places.
I got in a conversation about what happened with Tommy at St Pancras, where he had to defend himself, and all of the mess to do with that. And I said, I'm really sorry, but where we know what London's like at the moment, if I was in that position, the outcome would probably be very similar, and like anyone else. And it's a shame we have to, think about that. I mean,
and I'd like to see St Pancras Station has got more cameras up than anywhere.
There was one right in the roof, right where it happened.
There'd be loads of stuff on there before that guy was decked by Tommy. I'd love to see like with the Manchester airport. If that finally came out, the video, what happened prior to the officer kicking the suspect, and I'd love to see what happened before Tommy decked that guy. But yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, all of the politicians in Parliament at the moment, we talk about the Uni Party. If you look at the government website, the job description of an MP has actually been changed on the sneak. Yeah, it's no longer representing your constituents. And you've got a very diverse array of different politicians from different racial backgrounds, different countries, and who've congregated on Parliament. And it just appears to me that their concerns are everywhere else but this nation of ours. I mean, I want to show you
sectarian politics rearing its head again. Northern Ireland, you'd think we've got certain MPs now that are more concerned about Gaza and Palestine than they are with their own rubbish that's piling up in their own constituency in Birmingham, for instance.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll bring you this here. This is a passage from the British Nationality Act 1981. You obviously got the British Nationality Act 1948 as well. But this one specifically, Commonwealth citizens are recognised as having certain rights in the UK, including eligibility to stand for election in the House of Commons or sit in the Lords, as they are not considered aliens under UK law, Section 52, Paragraph 6 of the 1981 Act. In conjunction with the Electoral Administration Act, confirms Commonwealth citizens with indefinite leave to remain in the UK can stand for election in the House of Commons. This means people from Canada, Australia, or India, and other Commonwealth nations. So that's a hell of a load of real estate right there. That part of the British Nationality Act, there has to be some understanding, that you were an MP for this country. And I just feel that there's a bit of a connection with all of these problems gravitating onto our streets. I mean, that particular act there, Section 52, Paragraph 6, get rid of it or at least change it to give our country.
That should be in the Great Repeal Act, Andy, shouldn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We talk about Britain, we talk about the United Kingdom, but, this rot set in probably 300 years ago. I want to show you a video clip just to deconstruct it a little bit. And it's from Dr. David Starkey. As you know, he's on the advisory board for Rupert Lowe's Restore, which I've also joined, and I would encourage others to as well, because I think Advance and, Restore should work in tandem. But let me just play this. It's literally...
You mentioned the Free Speech Union as well, and they do a lot of good things. And I'm a member as well. And again, I would encourage people to join that.
Absolutely. Yeah, listen to this.
When I was a boy, and I still got my first passport, which I had for that trip abroad when I was an 11-year-old schoolboy, and my parents, in retrospect, must have sacrificed enormously to let me go on that school trip. I am simply a subject of the crown. That's what I am. And in other words, that we had, remember, Britain is not a nation state.
Britain is not a nation state. I'm a subject.
Isn't he brilliant, David Starkey? He's 80 as well. He's so sharp and shrewd, isn't he? He's fantastic.
Absolutely. But the point is, if you Ben Habib, I've seen an interview with him, talks about the Act of Union 1800, uniting Ireland. Well, it would have been Ireland at the time, with the rest of us, Scotland, England, and Wales. But if we go back a little bit further, 1706, 1707, Acts of Union, which joined England and Scotland together in what we now know as the United Kingdom. England lost their independent parliament, their independent say, as much as, the devolution in Scotland and Wales is. And, you get forward a few hundred years and you get all these little rules, all these little statutes, all these little regulations coming in all over the place. And we're tied up in knots. Is devolution working? Why doesn't England have a say?
Nothing annoyed me more than seeing, during the COVID lockdowns, little Nicola Sturgeon up in Scotland and that clown in Wales, Mark Drayford, droning on about how they needed more money from Westminster, and they'd gone and wasted so much money in Wales and Scotland, and they still wanted even more money to waste on whatever they were almost getting rewarded. And then they could play the political card that this cruel, horrible Westminster wasn't giving them enough money, and they were trying to protect the people's lives of Wales and Scotland. Just the cynicalness of it and playing politics with it. Unbelievable.
Absolutely. I mean, you have the devolved administration in Wales. You have the devolved administration in Scotland and Northern Ireland. And when you talk about mayors in
great big quangos, Andy, they waste millions of.
That's right.
Look at how many people are employed there, and then they've got interpreters, and they've all got nice officers and backroom staff and nice big pensions, all paid for by the taxpayer. How you could and what do they really do? They just waste money and spend it on their own pet projects.
That's right.
Get rid of the whole lot. Margaret Thatcher got rid of the GLC. Get rid of that the mayor's job in London as well. He's even got a foreign minister of London. That
I find
there's loads of these quangos and bureaucracies that.
I find mayor's offices a crazy idea, and if it spreads across the country, what you'll end up with is a regionalisation of England. It'll be gone. And you'll have Scotland the same, Wales the same. We need to stop this regionalisation because it'll just be a complete disaster. And eventually, of course, whether you consider yourself British, whatever, we'll lose our identity. Yeah. And people like the NWO, I'm using an abbreviation, will win. We'll just lose everything. It's got to stop.
But there's just so much waste that the taxpayer has to pay for. Does anybody on the live feed know what the police and crime commissioners do? I mean, apart from waste yet more money. I mean, there's just so much of it everywhere you look within government.
Absolutely.
And a lot of these people are it's jobs for the boys, jobs for the girls. It's who you know, your connections.
The CPS is another thing. I mean, I've had a couple of recent experiences where I've ended up with the legal profession, and things that should take days or weeks have taken months or years. It's crazy stuff. Absolutely crazy. Rebellious Jay, why didn't you read me out, Andy? Thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Read out what? I don't think the text came through. I only got the super chat on the first one. So if you want to remind me of that, I appreciate it very much. Let's have another look at some of the comments, because a few more have come in here, including the why didn't you read me out, Andy? Brendan Miles, Farage's establishment, same as the Tories and the Labour. That's the way it's coming across now, isn't it? That is the way it's coming across.
Look at the people he's recruiting. I mean, there's Sarah Pochin. A few years ago, she was part of Refugees Welcome when she was a Conservative. Now she supposedly changed her mind. Has she? This prison czar that he's got, that he announced 2 weeks ago, and on the first day she got mixed up in the trans debate and talked about men being in women's prisons in certain circumstances. And this is your new prison czar. I mean, this is not what reform was set up for in the early days. Digital IDs that Sarah Pochin was talking about the other day. I mean, it's every day.
Again, that's a Blair idea, isn't it? Jackie, I don't trust Ben. I did at one time, but not now. The best way to describe it, there's a lot of narrative about all of these figures in our public life out there. Some good, some bad, some really bad, some really good. Nigel, Ben, everybody, you name it, there's something. And you form your opinion based on what you're reading and what you're seeing. So I guess the best way I can answer that is stay tuned, keep watching, and hopefully it will change.
And all I can say about Ben Habib is he is so genuine. I mean, you mentioned earlier that he replied to a text. I mean, he must get hundreds of texts every day, and he always replies and courteous. And
the thing that stood out to me, Edward, he took the trouble.
Yeah.
Basic human decency. He took the trouble.
Courtesy, common courtesy that is lacking with a lot of these people. And he uses a lot of that. Humility as well, Andy. I mean, he's not the big arrogant, and he's an incredibly intelligent guy, but he's got that common touch as well, I feel. Absolutely. So Jackie, please keep an eye on him, and I'm sure you'll change your mind.
Rob Quince, Advance UK, all the way, folks. I think you've got a converted one there, flying the St George's cross proudly in their profile picture. Wonderful. Brendan Miles, Reform are just Tories. Well,
they are becoming the Tories, Mark, too, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Look at the latest defection, Jake Berry. He was the former chairman of the Conservative Party. He was in favour of remaining within Europe, and he was massively in favour of net zero and putting windmills and solar panels on half the countryside. He's just gone over to Reform now. I mean, how on earth is that a reformer? Mm. And can I just say on that, there's a Conservative called Marco Longhi who stood in the general election in Dudley. I'm not sure, north, east, west Dudley. He was a Conservative, and he was up against a really good Reform candidate, and they fell out, and they had lots of bad blood between them at the hustings and all this sort of stuff. Then shortly after the general election, when Longhi lost his seat, he suddenly changes his mind and defects to Reform, and they get rid of the grassroots reformer and give the branch to Marco Longhi. A slap in the face to people that have slogged their guts out and put loads of their own money into these campaigns, and to replace them with a Tory wet like that.
Absolutely. I find this comment very interesting, which I'll put on the screen now. And I'll tell you a theory that I have. If you look at Companies House, there's an update to this, but I'll tell you the theory at the time. The way the limited companies were set up, there was two directors of a company that had significant control over Reform, and that was Nigel Farage and Zahir Yousaf. For reasons we won't know, Zahir Yousaf has resigned his directorship of that company. I checked it yesterday. But I had a theory, because I remember Nigel saying 5 years. He'll commit to 5 years, which would bring us up to a general election. And he made an off-the-cuff remark, unless somebody younger and better looking came along, of course. All it would take is for him to be parachuted into a safe seat, an easily winnable seat. Nigel stands down, Zahir Yousaf in. I do wonder if that could happen, or it has been spoken about with the amount of exposure he gets in the media. There's an awful lot there, and probably more we don't know about. Just to cover my own arse here, that's purely conjecture on my part, just a theory, not based in any proof or evidence. Call it intuition, if you will.
I can elaborate on that. His full name is Mohammed Zahir Yousaf.
Zahir Yousaf, yeah.
He was the chairman of Reform, and then he resigned when he fell out with Sarah Poaching, when she mentioned banning the burqa in Parliament. And then, of course, they replaced him with Dr. David Bull, who I think he's the chairman in name only. Hardly see him in any interviews or anything else. He made that stupid comment about immigrants built Britain, which is complete nonsense. But Zahir is still the Nigel Farage's henchman behind the scenes. Zahir is made a big power grab for the branches. He controls the regional managers, and the regional managers in turn control the branches. So he is a very, very powerful force behind the scenes.
Absolutely, and you can see it. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to work it out, does it?
Yeah.
Great comment here. I'll answer it, and then you can answer it as well. Say, Tama, what are your real hopes for Advance UK, Andy? Change for the better, or just more of the same politics and a new rapper? As we discussed earlier, the problem is the uni party. Me personally, what I would like to see that arrangement dismantled, because it doesn't work. It hasn't done for a long time. I mentioned about regionalisation of England. I mentioned about devolution in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. I think a way needs to come around where all of the individual pieces of this puzzle reintroduce themselves to their own cultural identity, and at the same time finding a way to work together in harmony with a political force of some description at its core. You know, you have things like parties, you have things like whips. There shouldn't be whips, they're unconstitutional, and you're only playing with the party rules then and not the best interest of your constituents. So many things can change here, and something like Advance, where you've got people like Edward who have lived a little bit of the real world, can come in and say, well, hang on a minute, this is how it should be. The whole thing needs remodeling. I mean, you know, these cabinet meetings you have with Starmer and everyone else, there's no decisions made. They're given a bloody script before they go in. It's
the civil service behind the scene, the blood run it all. Yeah,
they need to be gone. That's another thing that needs to be voided. You know, it's a disgrace. That's my vision for our future. We can cooperate together, we can be together, but we have to recognize that we are who we are, our own cultures, and it's being eroded, you know, but we need that governance at our core that's going to represent us, that's going to look after us as it should be, as we vote them to represent us. And we haven't had that for at least a couple of generations I know of. Anyway, your turn, Edward.
I think it's going to slow drip away from Parliament as well, with the civil servants taking more power, the judiciary, the Supreme Court that Tony Blair appointed, assuming more power. All this power has got to be taken away from all these quangos and judiciary, the mainstream media, and people have got to be accountable within Parliament. So again, it's going to be the battle of our lifetime. These are massive vested interests that ain't going to give up this power easily. And but I'm up for the fight. I'm just loving it. And in answer to the question, as I say, a week is a long time in politics. A year is a lifetime. 4 years is an eternity. Look at Reform. They got 15% in the general election. Now they're polling at about 30%, 30 plus in a lot of these polls. It can be done. I think once Advance UK get registered as a political party and we get in the polls and we get 3, 4, 5%, let's say, that's a really nice little amount to build on. And I think we must be polling at about 3, 4% at the moment nationwide. That's a great building block. There are loads of Reform branch chairs up and down the country that are just sitting on their hands, waiting and seeing how Advance UK go. And if we're a credible force, I think you'll get lots of the true reformers desperate to come on board with the essence that should be reform, which is Advance UK. So I can really see 2029 Advance UK becoming the biggest party.
Yeah. And one thing that people have to understand as well, no one has any patience anymore. What we're talking about this evening is not a 5-minute fix. I'm talking about this from the outside because I think of my children's futures. You know, I've got a 12-year-old son. Does he fix this mess or do I fix this mess?
Yeah.
You know, I hope I live to see it. I hope I live to see the end of it. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but it's a life's work for somebody.
And that's why early on I mentioned those big issues that Advance UK stand for: a proper philosophy and also the proper democracy. We have the members vote for a college of 100 people, and the college make policies, and the college has the ability to get rid of the leader if the leader's not doing a good enough job. We have proper democracy. What is Reform's philosophy? What does Reform really stand for?
Well,
you think it might stand for a small government and low taxes, but then Farage comes out with a policy that he's going to allow people the cap on two child benefits to be extended. That's going to cost hundreds, £50 billion. So he's not a small government party. He's a big government. And what is the philosophy? I don't know. And I was part of Reform.
Absolutely. Rob Quince, thank you for the £2 super chat. Great work, Andy. I joined Advance on day one. There you go. There's one of your members there. Wonderful stuff. And, you know, I'll leave when you join Advance, you actually get given a referral link, like a sign-up link, and I'll leave that in the description for this live stream. So if anybody does want to, you know, come and at least try, you know, you can sign up there.
And also, Andy, there'll be people looking tonight, and I'd like you as well. I'd like you to put your name forward for the college. There's 100 people. This is like a non-executive part of Advance UK. We want people that from any walks of life, any particular, you know, any skills that they've got. I want to hear from everybody. Find me on X and direct message me, and I can put you in the right direction, or go on the Advance UK website and apply to become a college member, because we're actively looking for people that are going to put look for policy and drive the party forward.
I'll have a think about it. Thank you very much. I'm honoured. I wasn't always a taxi driver, so that's all I'll say. What I want to do at this stage,
I mean, we're not. This is it. We're not looking for some college professor lecturer that's an expert on. You know, I just want decent, patriotic people that love our country and want to take it forward with ideas and common sense. Man of the people. I think you'd be an excellent choice.
Well, I hope I got some. What I want to do at this stage, Edward, I want to say to you, do you have anything specific you want to say? And then I want to move on to the questions that I've got, you know, lined up, so we can go through those and discuss those.
I'm loving it. This is just great. And just to be chatting with people, it's just fantastic. So love to hear what questions you've got. Brilliant.
Okay. Right. The first one, in no particular order. What plans or ideas are there to encourage birth rates and affordable family life among the Indigenous people? We need to deport people, but we also need to consider the replacement. That's from Atom Fire.
Great question. When I was younger, in my marriage, we wanted more children. We would have loved to have had a larger family, but we were both working and slogging our guts out, paying so much in tax to the government. We couldn't afford it. So we were responsible parents, and we thought, we're not, you know, we just can't afford any more children at this stage. I've got 2 sons, by the way. I had 2 sons. But I would have liked more children. But we couldn't afford it because the taxes are so high in this country. I'd like to completely rebalance our tax base. I'd like to, I think that this is really revolutionary stuff here. I think the best person to spend the taxes is the person that actually earns them, rather than paying so much tax to some wasteful institution, Parliament, Westminster, for these politicians to send it to Tom, Dick and Harry all over the rest of the world, or for some carbon capture machines that are costing billions, or other nonsense. People themselves can. So if you lower the tax base, and by getting rid of all these massive bloated government departments, cutting the civil service down and stopping all this foreign aid, there's billions that could be saved, that could be rewarded. The people that are actually out there working would have enough money in their pocket to make choices and have larger families if they so wished. And they wouldn't need to spend all their income on child minding fees and things like that. Perhaps when I was a child, my mother could stay at home and look after me because the taxes were not so punitive on working people. But now we're paying the highest taxes since the Second World War. For what? A wasteful, terrible government state.
Well, it's child benefit that springs to my mind straight away. Years ago, it used to be called mummy money. That comes from the government. Obviously, there's the 2-child cap on it, which they debate frequently. But rather than give money from the government, which they've got to pay for by taxing everybody else, why not incentivize people to sort it out through the tax system?
The whole system is a mess. Only the very rich or the very, very poor that live off welfare can afford big families. I think that's wrong. I think it all needs... You know, these are the people that are building the country, that are out there slugging their guts out, working day in, day out to keep everything going. These are the people that should be rewarded, and they should have the choice if they want to have a family or not. There's also some incredible tax policies in Hungary. I think we could study their example, and that has actually raised the birth rates in Hungary. So by tweaking the tax system in favor of families, and there's a lot that could be done if there was the willing government, and I'm very, very much in favor of bringing power back to families, and families making the decisions. Families are the building block of our society.
Oh, agreed. I mean, as I've kind of probably revealed the way I spoke earlier, there's two ways of solving problems in my mind. Look at what somebody else is doing and that works, or look at something in the past that worked that could work now. And people are just narrow-minded. It's only seeing through to the next parliamentary session. That's it. And it's just one mess after mess after mess.
What annoys me as well, Andy, is that we've become so polarised. You mentioned the Palestine protests, and they won't talk to people like myself that are perhaps on the other side. I just think when I was a kid, we'd debate all these things in my sixth form, and people would talk. Labour and Conservatives were very polarised in the 1980s when I was at school, but we still had we would have a debate and have a chat about these things. Now it's just so sad that the left won't talk to the right. For instance, I read The Guardian, I'll read The Independent just to see the other side, and just to see what and maybe there's some compromise we can make in the middle.
Yeah, possibly. Next one. This is a very valid point, which I've seen a lot, and I'll apologise now, Richie, because you're obviously been with me for a long time. But the split the vote term really drives me crazy. Waste of time starting these new parties. They'll just end up splitting the vote, which will make it more likely that Labour will get it back in next time. That's a comment I've seen so often. I mean, what's your remark on splitting the vote, Edward?
Well, if everybody switched to Advance UK tomorrow, then we'd storm it, and that's what we're working to, I think, and it's a distinct possibility. I think the snowball analogy, pushing along the ground, we could build a massive snowball, and I think we can. Reform will implode. There's just not the talent there. They're going to start imploding, and they will just self-destruct, I think.
What people need to understand, and this is the way the figures are always fiddled in the mainstream, they'll say Labour won. I'm just picking a figure out of thin air here. It's not accurate. Labour won with 60% of the vote, say. That's not 60% of the country. That's 60% of the people that turned out to vote. Now, historically, if you look back at the last few elections, by-elections, general elections, or whatever it is, 35 to 40% of the electorate are AWOL. They don't turn out to vote. And this is how we end up trapped in the system we are. If you don't want to vote for anybody, then you still have to turn out and tell them you don't consent. But for change to happen, you've got to turn out and vote. There's pockets of houses all over the place, like mine, for example. Not everybody of voting age will vote. You've got mums, dads, wives, sons, daughters. The list is endless. Get them politically engaged, because otherwise you won't.
And that's it. The last general election was the lowest on record. Only 60% of the electorate voted. So 40%, none of the above. Yeah, I think with a really patriotic party, we can appeal to those people, and all those other factors that I've discussed. I think it's all to play for. It may seem reform unassailable at the moment, but things can change quite dramatically.
There was I just want to add this. I feel it's important. We'll go on to the next question. There is a very, very old court case from the 1700s, Ashby versus White, and it's where a guy wanted to vote in an election and he was stopped, said you can't vote. I forget without reading the text, what the reason was. But long and short of it, this guy sued because he had his right to vote taken away from him, his right to give his consent taken away from him. And it's a landmark ruling, which you can do. I've actually got the full text of it on my laptop somewhere if anyone's interested. And it details that process of consent. That's what you've been given. bloody well get to the ballot box and give it. You know, it's as simple as that.
And that's my job, to motivate that 40% and all the others to get out there and cast your vote. People have fought and died for our right to do this. So
absolutely,
like you say, if you don't agree with any of it, go out there and spoil your ballot paper or do something, and then it eventually gets through that. If everybody's spoiling the ballot paper, something.
Well, if everybody went out, it's an interesting concept, isn't it? If everybody went out countrywide, it would take a gargantuan effort and wrote Ashby versus White, I do not consent. It'd be a constitutional crisis like that. They wouldn't know what to do with it. But there's not enough people politically engaged. So we need to work on getting, parties like Advance to the front and get people realising that the days of splitting the vote are over. Just encourage as many of your circle as you can to get out, get down there and vote for change. Otherwise, we're finished.
For me, those county council elections where Reform stormed it, they won loads of county councils up and down the country, is a moment in history. And it shows people that the Uni Party, the Conservatives and Labour, it swings the pendulum backwards and forwards. That kind of, I think it's all over. I think, and the new party that Jeremy Corbyn is setting up, I think that's another game changer as well. The Conservatives, there'll be a resurgency with the Conservatives. I think Kemi Badenoch probably hasn't got much longer to go. A very ambitious Robert Jenrick's breathing down her neck. But if they elect James Cleverly, then I think it'll be all over for them. But who knows there? That's going to be an interesting one, how that plays out. Rupert Lowe is another joker in the pack as well, and not literally a joker, but he's a lot will rest on how he goes.
I mentioned earlier that I'm anti-establishment to a degree, and I'm keeping a very close eye on Rupert Lowe because I think the whole problem in my mind is Conservatives and Labour have failed us dramatically, and they need to go. They need to be consigned to the dustbin of history. And I wouldn't want to see Rupert Lowe go with the Tories. I really wouldn't. It'd be such a waste. Right.
Half Conservatives should be in the Lib Dems, or some should be in the Greens.
Oh, yeah.
Anna Soubry, monster raving loony party. How the hell did she become a Conservative?
Yeah.
Are you thinking? So it would be a monumental task to become for Rupert to join the Conservatives. He'd spend the next 5 years just trying to sort his own party out to get it into ship shape, let alone be in shape to fight a general election. So the only option for him, I think, is a great pincer movement, this restore movement that he's setting up, and he's getting the great and the good to join it and getting loads of publicity. But come a general election, pressure groups are all very well and good, but it's political parties. And I think that if he brought that back into Advance UK, I think we'd be unstoppable.
Yeah, I agree. Paul, I'm concerned about Reform's current tactics at the moment, and I'm warned by the rise of the Advance Party and its values, etc. But could we get the likes of UKIP, Nick Tenconi on board, as they are on the same page and form a united front? What do you say to that?
Yeah, and there's a great guy, David Curtin, as well, the Heritage Party. There's a lot of these parties. I think a lot of these people are big fish in small ponds, and these little parties, they're their own little fiefdoms. Love to see these parties disband. They've been around for a few years, and they've only got a few hundred, a few thousand members. Advance have only been going for 7 weeks in effect, and if we can get to 30,000 members, surely that to these smaller parties, I'd reach out to them. I'd love to hear from them. Nick Tenconi is a great activist. I love some of his work that he's done, and those gone over to highlight the in northern France, reporting from the beaches and the camps over there. I'd love to see Nick Tenconi disband UKIP and join with Advance UK. Catherine Blakelock, who was the former chair of she was the former chair of the Brexit Party before Nigel Farage. She's now joined Advance UK. So yeah, some of these other players are coming on board.
I mean, she was English Democrats, wasn't she?
She's standing against Sarah Pochin, yeah.
Yeah.
And with YouTube stars like yourself, Andy, coming on board as well. I mean, it's
well, one problem with all these little parties, and I think it's something the right suffers from totally, is that lack of unity. We're all pulling in different directions. I mean, there's another guy, Graham Moore, English Constitution Party. What he doesn't know about the English Constitution is not worth writing about in itself. It's another guy with so much knowledge up here you could pull in and talk to. You know, it's talent all over these other parties that could pull their resources together and really do this.
I mean, if there's anybody listening tonight that's got connections like that, I would love to hear from them. I'd love to talk to them. Try and persuade them.
Graham, are you listening? See what happens. Mike Edwards, how can we eradicate the undemocratic civil service? What were we talking about? Quango set in place to undermine any government wishing to make positive changes, maybe referendum to overhaul the system.
I think the Great Repeal Act, you've got to go in this from day one and repeal half of these these terrible laws that we have on the statute books. You've got to have a proper Doge department that's going to go and look at all these quangos and scrap half of them. The Doge department's got to be all powerful to go into the civil service and look at some of those departments, analyze what they're actually doing and are they adding any value to our country? If not, why are they employed by the government? I think you need very powerful, business-minded people that have achieved a lot in life. I've built up a company, big business from nothing, and I've a lot of experience in dealing with people. And that's why reform they've got rid of people like myself that have achieved things and are able to achieve things with this. To rationalize the civil service and talk assertively to the managers and get things done. The yes people that they've replaced us, they won't be able to do that. They won't have a clue. They're just talentless. Some of these people.
Absolutely. I want to give Dominic Cummings some credit here as well.
Is he on tonight?
Yeah. Graham heard my call. There he is. I joined, but they've not answered my emails. So I don't know whether Graham could DM you. He's on Twitter.
I'd love to hear from you, Graham.
Graham, if you look on my Twitter followers, Edward's on there. We follow each other, so you can reach out to him that way, see where it goes. Dominic Cummings, and I implore anybody to go and find it on YouTube. There was a great video on exactly how the inner workings of government function or not function, and he really delves into the truth behind the scenes, lifts the curtain, i.e. they're all given a brief when they walk in and all the decisions have already been made, and what goes on behind the scenes. It's really frightening, really, really frightening, and it needs pulling to pieces. It really does.
Well, he would know. I read Nadine Dorris's book on the COVID lockdowns and everything else, and he's an interesting character. But I do admire him. He was looking to take on the so-called blob, the civil service.
I haven't read Nadine's book. I've read like the preface to it, so I know what it's about. And again, it's definitely an eye-opener at those times, isn't it? A lot of the things
Dougie Smith as well was a big player behind the scenes, and Dominic Cummings, Michael Gove as well. Quite interesting.
Absolutely. Tom, how would you handle the illegal boats problem?
We've got to get so tough with this. Like I say, we need to get out of all these international conventions that we signed up for. We've got so many massive pull factors. Why the hell are we giving all this welfare to illegals that are broken into our country? From day one, I would get rid of any welfare. Bread and water in an encampment, with barbed wire and a tent. Yeah. Why are they given legal aid? The amount of money these legal aid lawyers are pocketing from defending the human rights to the nth degree of people that aren't even British citizens. Most British citizens can't get legal aid. So why should somebody just be able to get on a boat, sail off a couple of meters off the French coast, get picked up and come to our country and get unlimited legal aid showered on them. It's disgraceful. So those massive pull factors, I would have it out with the French in the Channel. They push the boats back to France. The French would go ballistic about it. There'd be a standoff for a few weeks. Maybe you revoke French fishing licenses, but we really have it out with the French. And that deal of giving millions of pounds to the French gendarmerie to stop the boats is absolute nonsense. That needs stopping from day one. I'm totally disgusted in our weak, useless country that allows this invasion to happen. A state of emergency should be declared for any new government in 2029 to come in and for once and all stop this nonsense, and deportations within 7 days. I don't care if they're going to be we don't know where they're from or whatever. We can do DNA tests on and narrow it down that way and deport them to wherever they're from. So yeah, really tough government. If there's a willing government there and tough people behind the scenes to get this done, we can do it.
Absolutely. Two things come out of your comment there. Number one, legal aid. People in this country, and as we've identified with Lucy Connolly, for example, are completely and utterly unaware half the time of what their actual rights are. Not their legal entitlements or anything, their rights. Knowledge is power. That's all I can say with that one. Going to the boats. We had to
just also on that as well, the NGOs and so-called charities that are out there in Calais aiding and abetting, and I don't use that word lightly. They are aiding and abetting. They're giving them phone numbers. They're telling them even the story. They're probably giving them stories to make up and throw the passports away and giving them advice on how to break into our country. Why aren't these investigated? A lot of these taxpayers care for Calais, and so some of them have been given taxpayer money. So they're given taxpayer money to allow illegal invasion into this country. I mean, it's perverse.
Dublin Return Agreement or Dublin Returns Agreement. Yeah. When Brexit happened, that went. And I was told that Boris was offered a new returns agreement, I think twice, and stuck two proverbial fingers up at it both times. It
still supposedly applies in Europe. So the next, the first country they get to, they have to apply there, which it's never been. It's international law and it's never been applied.
No. So we lost that. The number of boats increased. That's very important to identify. But the problem is there. The problem we have now. There's a few questions I ask. Right? Who are you? Where have you come from? What are your intentions when you get here? If I don't like the answers to any of those, you're out. It's got to be that tough. Yeah. You know, I think it was called the Alien Act of 1905, I think it was. And this is back in the terms where you had steerage passengers and all this sort of thing. When these migrants, primarily Jewish actually, that landed in this country at the time, were landed, these are the questions that were asked. Who are you? Where have you come from? What do you want to do when you get here? If not, could you financially support yourself? If these questions weren't answered correctly, gone. And it was the responsibility of the company that bought them here to get them back again. So if they've come from France, France should take them, you know.
And this is just one aspect of it. This is the illegal side of it. Legal is absolutely massive as well. But again, the bar has been set so low that anybody can just rock up here and claim asylum, or they can become a legal migrant. So absolutely. The whole, again, you know, you could probably unless you're getting £100,000 a year job, then you're not allowed to come here. So yeah. So we still keep a few other people in the Premiership. So some of these footballers. I mean,
so it does work. I always fall back to the example of a friend of mine. He's from Afghanistan originally. He's a taxi driver. He came to this country. I won't say how, but he got full citizenship. He's bought a house, started a family. I work 60 hours a week. He probably works 80. You know, he works harder than anybody I know. He's settled in, he's integrated, and he contributes. He's got friends and everything. So it can work. But what we're seeing every day, it's out of control. It's wrong. And it needs to be stopped.
And there's been because it's been such mass immigration, net immigration has been running at nearly 1 million for the last several years. On that scale, people just can't integrate. They move into their own communities where they speak the same language, and they don't have any. They're almost parallel societies that have been developing. But if it was done on a smaller scale, people would have. I know people that came in the 70s and 80s when there wasn't any mass immigration. There is maybe like your Afghanistani taxi driver. They've assimilated and become British. But on the scale that we've seen, it can't. We do, all parallel societies are developing. We're becoming the disunited kingdom.
And referring back to that British Nationality Act section I pulled up earlier, I think that's inadvertently aided and abetted all this, because concerns are going everywhere else apart from our country where it really matters. And as we discussed, I think that's one section of that act that needs throwing in the dustbin. But we won't go backwards. Let's go to the next question. Raymond Woods, are Advance UK going to bring back instruction of the English Constitution back to our schools, the police and judiciary? Will Advance UK use the English Constitution, or Scottish in the case of Scotland, in guiding their government? And finally, will Advance restore the English Constitution to its former glory by avoiding all the illegal changes made by successive governments to our nation's rights since 1707? There's a lot to unpack there. I'm well aware that English Constitution, they stopped teaching it in the 70s. You talk to people of my generation, for example, they won't know what you're talking about. And there is a lot. I think it's increased from the Tony Blair years, but certainly before that, over generations, with our countries have been ripped to pieces. I mean, that's a large comment. What do you have to say to that one?
Advance recognise that we're a Christian, that Christianity built this country as well. So a lot of what that caller has said is very much what Advance are about. Restoring the rights and powers and our history, and having history taught properly in the schools, reviving our culture, and then having a pride in our country. So that's very much what Advance are about.
I mean, an example very quickly. I did a video on this about they were labelled vigilantes turning up. I think it was in Bournemouth, to go and do patrols on the streets and everything. They're a bit chastised, but a portion of the Constitution, you have watch and ward, which is basically organised groups of locals going out and effectively policing the areas to keep everybody safe. That's an example of knowledge that nobody would know, because it's not taught anymore. It's just, they're vigilantes because the newspaper said so. That's the kind of world we're living in. Knowledge.
Isn't it sad how it's all been done? There's hundreds of years of test cases and whole history of it, and it's pretty much since the Blair years has just been tossed aside. Oh yeah.
I mean, who was the guy? It was John Smith, wasn't it, before Blair, who we thought was going to be the Prime Minister? Did he have a heart attack?
Wasn't it?
Yeah. I do wonder whether he would have been good. I remembered liking him at the time, and this is from an ex-Tory, and then obviously the whole Blair thing happened, and we've gone downhill from there. It's on. But wonder how history turns, isn't it? Right, we've got absolutely not funny. The burning question, Andy. What does Advance think about English rights? I expect you to grill him. Well, that's what we've just spoken about there, and I hope that the answers have come across okay. And I think a
lot of this is my own personal views. Advance UK will have some concrete policies. As I say, we are trying to get 100 people together for this college, and it will be their job to come up with policies. I'm just giving my personal views, and that's where I'm coming from. We have our mission statement and our philosophy. So a lot of these ideas will be part of it, but this is me speaking how I feel about these things.
Absolutely. And again, that's freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Would they void the British Nationality Act? How would they tackle the questionable civil service?
It always goes back to this civil service, doesn't it? They've got so much power and
Absolutely. With the British Nationality Act, you got the British Nationality Act 1948, British Nationality Act 1981, and I think there's been a revision again fairly recently. Don't quote me on it, but I think there has. And again, knowledge is power. Go and read these things. The part of this awakening, the politics that we've spoken about this evening, and also people need to go and learn. People need to research. Don't take what you're told by the mainstream or anybody else for that matter. We need to reintroduce critical thinking into our psyche. Otherwise,
I almost think the education system has been dumbed down for that reason, so that people are more malleable and the government can control you and tell you what to do. And the buzzword of the moment is all about diversity. But there's no diversity of thought in some of these universities. It's the left-wing way, or out you're kicked out, and you can be cancelled from your job if you don't think the right way. I want to bring back diversity of opinions and have debates on the great issues of the day.
And the important thing is to debate the issues and be able to freely debate the issues without fear or favour. That's missing, isn't it? Very much.
You can't knock Farage got debanked, and for just the way he was thinking, and that's just so wrong.
Absolutely. Well, we're up to an hour and 40 minutes, Edward, and I want to wrap things up. So I think we've covered a lot of ground tonight.
Your wife's going to be so mad at me, isn't she, for keeping you from your Friday evening?
Absolutely. I think we've covered a lot of ground tonight. Lots of different subjects, chat, opinion, answered a few questions. What I usually like to do with people that come on and have a chat with me is give you the last words. What would you like to say finally before we disappear?
Well, it's been absolutely my pleasure to be on your show. It's been so good to hear some of the questions, and the hour and 40 minutes has just flown by. I've enjoyed it. It's been fantastic. We've covered a vast array of stuff here. I think things are really changing out there. And if I can go back to this little snowball that we're pushing along the floor in winter, rolls over and over and over and becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. From my name is Oakenfall, so I'm very, very old English name. And from little acorns, massive oak trees can grow. I'd like to end it with that if I can, Andy.
Perfect. Yeah, you know what? The ironic thing you talk about you being an old English name. Mine is Norman. We came over with William the Conqueror in 1066. Mm-hmm. I'm English to my absolute core. But if you look at the Bayeux Tapestry, you've actually got my family name in the tongue of the time, Giffon, I think it was. My grandfather researched it, but yeah, we came from over there, but here I am speaking out. How ironic.
Well, my name is a Norman name, Oakenfall. It means full in oak, and it's not a Norman name. So yeah, right.
Well, there you go.
And I can trace Oakenfalls back to the 1500s, 1600s, and yeah. And there's Adam de Oakenfeld that had 100 acres of land in Norfolk, and they had a further Doomsday book in about the 13th century, and he was mentioned in that. So yeah.
Right. Wonderful. Right, everybody. Thank you very much for listening this evening. If you can hang on a minute, Edward, when I finish, that'd be great. If you've enjoyed this evening, I would very much appreciate you sharing this on social media. Let's just blast this around everywhere as much as we can. Please hit the thumbs up button as well, because that helps the algorithm, and the YouTube do the same. If you are new tonight, and you haven't seen me before, please consider subscribing to the channel. Very much appreciate it. And apart from that, thank you very much again, everybody. And as always, I look forward to talking to you soon.